That's all the slides meant to say.
Okay.
Oh, I also want to let you help me to imagine what happened here. So an agent observe any of these three calls, right? Eagle call. Then first he interpret that to the meaning. The meaning includes three things, right? Fear, action, and I call it context. So reference, okay. So is it necessary all of these three things available? Then we say observed, or only one?
All of them are.
All of three are necessary.
Because of that, they are all of them there.
Okay.
Because all of them are recognized and observed.
Okay. So okay. Instead of make a direct link from observing eagle call to a certain action, there is some meaning in the between, right? In the middle.
There really is this moral to be gotten for all of us about presenting things, is not to present things that look like statistics when you don't want to, when you're not trying to say anything statistical. And maybe.
Oh, I'm not talking about the number. I try to imagine this experiment, this understanding.
Yes, all these events occur in the environment.
And similarly, when you are suggesting that there is a trend or a significant difference, you need a measure of spread. And that was missing in the previous slide. There was these average tendencies, but there was no measure of spread. And that, you know what I mean by error bars? If you had, like for instance, if your average slope is like that, what is the highest and what is the lowest, and what's you can do a region of 2 standard deviations around the average, and so someone knows.
Just the quality of the mean. Is that mean very good, represent the entire set of atoms, or that mean does not represent the entire nature very well because it's not very close? If it's just represent the quality of the mean.
Yeah, or well, even you can have a good representation of the mean, but if your phenomenon is such that there's a lot of variability, then there's going to be a large spread in that your estimate of the mean, and this is.
It's not normal data yet.
Simply, well, it can be normal, but with a really broad, distribution. And when you do sampling, you're trying to estimate the mean. The precision of your estimate is proportional to 1 over the square root of your sample size.
Yeah.
And
what I'm tickled about is that the original motivation has nothing to do with the kind of considerations that are being discussed right now.
Yeah.
All of which I have no problem with at all. I mean, none about what you're saying. But the truth of the matter was, this paper started from a master's thesis that Nisrine did. Her motivation was to get the master's degree. Yeah. And she had to put in, she thought she had to put in things that looked statistical into the thesis so that the committee would approve the thing. And that's what that's the motivation for these kinds of things, and they just happened into the paper because they were there in the model, and she and I didn't think very carefully about how to put them in. In fact, it caused us some trouble with the reviewers, if you remember, these various things. It caused us some trouble with the reviewers.
But I guess you stated more strongly than Nisrine did about the difference between the 3 learning curves, and that you felt that they were different.
Oh, I do, and I perfectly realize that they shouldn't be as part of the model, except for the fact that a little bit of the fear was built in. And whatever little changes that have come in from the actions, but you can't really get that because the action's going to depend heavily on the environment, and the environment's going to change in the model and in the real world. gonna be the same.
This, Stan, this is a cartoon I saw this morning.
Mhm. Best thesis defense is as good as a thesis out there.
Have you seen that?
Nice.
Nisrine, maybe you felt like this at the end of your thesis defense?
It's been too long, she won't remember.
Have you seen that?
Oh, come on. Hey,
Oh, come on.
That's response.
So finally, this is the research contribution of this work. First, we presented a novel multiple meaning approach for the vervet alarm calls, since we have three types of the meaning: the feeling-based meaning, the action-based meaning, and the recursion-based meaning. This is a first step toward realizing the goal of the language in the LIDA model. It's just an initial step. This work also is a validation of the LIDA-based perceptual learning mechanism, especially in learning the relationships. And this work also has proved the effectiveness of the computational simulation in studying the communicative signals.
I have some questions.
Yes?
Yes. That's very interesting. I like this meaning representation. So one thing I want to clarify is that in the model, do you define that? Oh, you already answered. All of these three things should available, which means higher than some threshold. Then we say that meaning has been recognized. All of the fair, action, and reference.
You mean if you have a threshold for recognition in pound?
Could be. I'm just talking about the.
We have this in pound.
I'm just talking about the meaning of the one alarm call. So that includes three necessary components, right?
Yes.
Fear, action, and reference.
Yes.
So all of these three components available, higher enough, then we say the agent recognized that the meaning of the alarm call.
Well, I don't think we have a threshold in the recognition
Okay.
process.
Maybe. Yeah, it's too
in
simplified.
pound.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not familiar.
Okay.
It's, all these things are aspects of understanding, right? So you've got multiple different things, and you're sort of building up. Because I think you started off with a quote from Stan's book related to, was it quadratic understanding, and that you can have different degrees of understanding. And are these pieces of a more rich understanding as you get these things built up? Action understanding, right? So that's how I was understanding it, is that as you understand, if you understand all three of them, then you have a richer understanding than an agent that only understands two.
In other words, if there's only two components available, the agent does not consider that it is that meaning, right? Different
Well, I think
meaning.
it has some understanding of the meaning, but it would be less understanding than an agent that understood all
Okay.
three. That's how I was interpreting it.
Okay. Another just personal curiosity, why you started by learning? Learning to me is not very easy, because I see you say it's first step to study or adding language into the LIDA, but why you start by doing learning
Well,
instead
well,
of building in some building in something? But it's good to have learning, but it seems.
No, but we built the IDA model,
Uh-huh.
and IDA could communicate in some ways in English
Uh-huh.
with sailors to some extent, and it was all built in.
Okay.
So
So what, I might have missed the question. Was it
but-
what's the
but
relationship to
that's all
language?
pseudo-language in a way.
Okay. Oh, I was
What-
thinking
But what's
because I feel Nisrine proposed a series of work, right? That's the first step, adding language into LIDA.
Yes.
But to me, learning seems is very advanced topic. I mean, you want to add language. Maybe if it's me, I would do some built-in work first, and later on do learning.
Well, I think
But
that's a pretty good point. So I was kind of thinking about this as well. I think maybe it's similar. So from what we have done so far, I think this is building blocks towards language. I don't think there's any question about that, but I think that a lot of it might even be more about, just learning overall and the process. It's almost like a theory of mind thing a little bit, where the agent is picking up on what another agent is doing and learning about. There's a lot of that, I think, and I think maybe the language part probably has a lot more to expand on before it starts really shining the language piece of it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's part of what you were saying, Dachi, that the language part, there's a lot of preliminary work, and this is dealing with a lot of preliminary that's almost prior to the language piece of it, learning associations and learning from what's going on
Because
in the environment.
for me, I'm interested on how do you interpret meaning, how do you represent meaning, that's the structure of the meaning.
Yes.
The learning is good, but here I like to know the structure of meaning itself. So, but a different topic.
Yeah.
And also I heard you said multi-cycle. That's very cool for me
What
because
Multi-cycle.
multi-cycle as another direction, right? And because I was working on single cycle almost, but multi-cycle is very good. And okay, another thing, this is recognized language, understanding meaning. Okay, yes. Do you think to use this understanding like the agents to speak out?
No, this is production. We didn't work on the production side. We just work on the understanding phase. So we didn't work on that direction.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of interesting extensions where you could do that. You could have an agent where it actually, you do switch over to something that really is sound, or something that could be, you have some kind of a wave that is interpreted, and there's all kinds of interesting things about misinterpretation and then gradually understanding. I think there's, from the language aspect of it, there's a lot.
Yes,
But
a lot of directions.
But from a meanings perspective, like you were saying, Dutch, I think there's a lot of interesting things here about taking something that's arbitrary and assigning meaning to something that could be, from something arbitrary.
Just a small parts of the thing there.
Oh, I'm not talking about what you have talking about here. I'm talking about next step. Do you have that plan? For example, to speak it out, like agents speak out. For example, you already have a structure about the meaning of the language. Then,
It's a proper language as we have. It's
Okay.
proper language. So language is more difficult to model.
for example, maybe that baby agent, if he has, for some reason, he has a fear feel, and also he has observed some reference event, maybe based on that, he will send out alarm call, meaning on the other side, direction, speak out.
That could be a direction in the future. Maybe yes. The production of the alarm calls, because we didn't deal with that as well. We just did
Okay.
the perceptual side of the vervet alarm call, how to understand the meaning of those alarm calls. We do not
Do you mean the creation of the infant creating or trying to imitate the alarm call itself?
Generating language.
Okay.
Well, not language, but the alarm call.
Alarm call.
Because there's only 3 true versions,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be difficult.
It would be hard, yeah.
And also, in reality, the learning of, to understanding language is linked to the production in humans anyway. It's very complex.
Well,
And-
the biologists seem to think, at least some of them, that the calls are sort of built in. These particular
Fixed action patterns.
We have such things in humans. We cry and we laugh and we scream, and we learn the meaning. We learn when to do those and when not. And that they seem to think that those are fixed action patterns. They have another name for them. what's the other name, do you know?
Classical
The
technique.
No, they call that some particular.
That's, actually, fixed action pattern is exactly what I was
That's
thinking too.
Maybe that's.
There might be another way to.
Modal
refer to it.
action pattern, sign stimulus. Sign stimulus or releaser is a trigger for the fixed action pattern. The fixed action pattern term comes from Conrad Lawrence. Male stickleback?
No, that's not the term that I've heard. But in any event, that's the meaning of it. And so they really don't have to, but they do make it, and they study when they make it, and they don't always make it correctly
Right.
at the correct times to begin with.
Mhm.
You're not talking about imprinting, are you?
What?
You're not talking about imprinting, are you?
No, I'm not talking about imprinting. I'm talking about when making these sounds doesn't seem to be much of a problem for them. But
But the meaning has to be learned.
yeah, but you know, you talk about humans, we think that makings of the sounds of our language, is that much of a problem or not? But we have to learn to do that, don't we?
Very interesting.
Do babies learn to cry? Do they learn to laugh?
Did you work with Kim Aller and Bo Franklin?
Yeah.
I took his class, but I didn't want to do images.
So do you know the answer to Stan's question about do infants learn to cry?
I think
no,
they don't.
I've delivered
From what I was
infants,
understanding,
and
they're
the
consistent
first thing they
in
do
the
when they
sound.
get out
They
is
come
they
out
cry.
crying.
Yeah,
I mean,
most of the
there's
time.
very little
But if they're able to
variation.
breathe and they're healthy, that's what they do.
That's what they do. And if
Yeah.
you
I mean, it
think
seems like if you have a
probably
different
scream,
society of
scream or
vervet
cry.
monkeys, do they
I
come up
have
with some
performed
arbitrary
maybe a
sound between these
dozen
different
or
things,
so
or is it always,
circumcisions.
Yeah.
And
once they've got it right,
do-
consistent in the same frequency?
They don't
of
like-
sounds?
They
I don't
know
know.
what to
Yeah, exactly.
or to say. They know what to say.
Exactly. So,
No one
yeah.
teaches them
Yeah, I don't
to
know.
scream.
That's a,
Yeah.
you can't do
I
that.
mean,
No. That's illegal.
Normally, they're
That's good. Oh,
maybe it's about 2 dozen.
all right.
Well, thanks, Nisrine.
Thank
Really
you,
appreciate it.
Nisrine.
Thank you.
Oh, do you have any plan for the next step? Because, as you said, it's the first step.
I still work with Excel frankly. Still
I'm talking about maybe just briefly, any